How's it going, everyone, and welcome to the Thinking Blue podcast. I am your host for the week, Blake Harris. Joining me this week is my buddy, Josh Schaefer, who was a broadcaster in the Cape Cod Summer Baseball League for 2 seasons and also covered spring training baseball for Baseball America last year. Josh, buddy, how we doing?
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. A longtime listener, first time co-host. So yeah, happy to be here. Happy to talk some Dodgers baseball. It's been interesting, well, to say the least, and we'll get into that.
That we will, yeah. Normally, Josh and I are busy talking college football, but instead we're talking baseball this week. So before we get to absolutely trashing on the Dodgers this week, Josh, I do have a quick question, kind of trivia question for you. Now, you did work in the Cape Cod Summer Baseball League for 2 years covering the Chatham A's, where if anyone's ever met Josh, you would know he covered the Chatham A's within 2 minutes because he lets you know he covered the Chatham A's. But he got to see a lot of great baseball talent there for 2 years. So, Josh, there's some Chatham Anglers currently in the Dodgers organization. How many can you name? Now, this is not just on the active roster 40 man. This is going all the way down to the now low A Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. So we got about 120, 140 players. But how many of them were Chatham A's?
To my knowledge, there are 4 former Chatham A's in the Dodgers organization. The 2 most notable that people will know pretty quickly are Josiah Gray, who came over from the Reds in the Puig deal. I did a story on him last spring at spring training. He's got a great story. The other big notable one is Michael Bush from North Carolina. And then we have a new addition, Kyle Hurt, who's a California guy. He played baseball at USC. He's a pitcher. The Dodgers just acquired him before the season. And then Jeff Belge. He went to St. John's University in New York. And last year he played with Great Lakes. And I'm pretty sure he's in Tulsa this year. So to my knowledge, it's those 4. I covered 3 of them on the Cape. If there's another one, it is somebody that was way down the list that are way back in the years that I didn't cover. And until last year, the year before, Rich Hill was a former Chatham A.
Yes.
So he is the longest tenured former Chatham angler in professional baseball, or he was.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have a list of all the players, so I was literally just going to go based on whoever you tell me. So there very well could be 4, there very well could be 10, but some notable Chatham anglers. So, Josh, let's talk about this train wreck of a season so far. But we're not going to go too in-depth. We're just going to pretty much touch up over the past series with the California Angels or the Anaheim Angels, whichever team name you prefer to call them. Coming into the series, everyone jokingly said, oh, the Dodgers are going to get swept or lose the series, and they actually did. They actually lost the series. So the first game, to no surprise, the offense was non-existent. Second game, the offense said, you know what, let's just click on all cylinders, do what we're supposed to be doing on a day-to-day basis, and they put out 14 runs. And then yesterday, the offense only scored 1 run. So I guess let's just start with, again, losing to an Angels team where coming into it, they had, I think, the worst starting pitching in the American League, the worst bullpen in the American League, and the Dodgers made every well, aside from Saturday when they actually looked like the worst, but on Friday and Sunday, the Dodgers made them look like Nolan Ryan on the mound. They made them look like Greg Maddux on the mound. So just your just quick instant reaction from dropping 2 of 3 to a struggling Angels team.
I guess my reaction, without having played in any of the games, is kind of similar to what Trevor Bauer said yesterday, or Sunday. Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating to watch just because I think we all know how good this team is and should be, and was last year, and then got better, and they just haven't been producing. And then you come into this series against the Angels, a team that you should beat, a team that you kind of know what the scouting report is, like you said. Pitching has not been there. This is a team that year after year after year blatantly refuses to improve its pitching staff.
Yeah.
To the point where it is shocking how the Angels refuse to improve their pitching staff. And yet they've still got a stacked lineup. Like, they've got a great lineup 1 through 9, but they just can't pitch. And they came in as advertised, and you've got guys like Ohtani and Trout and Ward and Fletcher who are swinging the bat, making plays, whatever. But the Dodgers just couldn't hit, and for games 1 and 3 in this series, we'll say. So it's frustrating. It's gotten to the point where the Dodgers for the last 2 weeks now have had one game where they just pile up all the runs that they needed in all the other games that week. And we saw that in game 2 of this series. And it doesn't carry over to game 3.
Yeah, the weirdest thing about this stretch, about them losing all these games, is the fact that the offense literally goes quiet for like 3 or 4 games in a row, where they'll just score 1 run, 2 runs, and then it's like going back to their last home game. They played the Reds. I think they scored like 8 runs total. I think like 6 of them came in the eighth, and then they scored like 6 runs total over the next 3 games. Then you score 16. Well, granted, the team itself scored one. It was just that Matt Beatty and AJ Pollock together combined for 15. So you score 15, then you go like again 3, 4 games, you barely score anything, and then you score again 14 against the Angels. So I don't get this stretch about how they have 5 games, they can't do anything. They literally look like I said, the Santa Anita Little League team out there just trying to compete, and then the offense absolutely shows up. But I just want to get also your just immediate takeaway from that game on Saturday where the Dodgers were up 13-0. I don't know about you. When they were up 13-0, I literally just put the game on mute and I was just doing something else on my computer, like writing articles. And my cousin actually sent me a text, and then I was going back and forth with you that the Angels were coming back. The Dodgers ended up winning 14-11, but I can't be the only one that was thinking in the back of my mind in the eighth inning or something that the Dodgers were somehow going to find a way, even though it looked like they were going to, somehow get a winning streak going. They were going to have it would have been the biggest blown lead in MLB history. Just again, the fact that I think the last 4 or 5 innings they scored 1 run, so the offense went quiet, and then of course the bullpen did what it's been doing all season. But just were you like me? Did you think that they were going to find a way to somehow blow that game on Saturday?
I want to say, I want to say no. I want to say yes. I'm kind of in between because you think like, no, they're not going to blow this. And then when they go up by so many runs, and you're right, that's what I did too. I put the game on mute. I had something going on yesterday, so I was doing some prep for it, and I was working all day Saturday, so I had the game on loud, but TV behind me at my desk. And I was just kind of listening to it. And then once they start scoring all the runs, I'm getting distracted and just watching the game the whole time. And finally, they're up whatever it was, 13-0, and then 14-1. And at that point, I muted the game and I started going back and doing all my stuff. And then I keep just looking back, and the Angels are rounding the bases, and then there's like that low angle, like right next to third base, of another dude rounding third. I'm like, what is going on? And and then there was the 3-run home run that kind of made it a little bit scary there for a few minutes. I kind of thought, no, I don't think they're going to blow this. I don't think that, despite everything that's gone wrong this season so far, this is not going to happen today. And I think, given that the deficit was so large, I think the game felt closer than it actually was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, the final score is what, 14-11. So yeah, it's a 3-run win. If the game was 6-3, it would not have felt that close.
Yeah.
It's the fact that the Angels had come all the way back that made it feel close, and I'm sure Angels fans and players would have felt the same way. And then I do think it was a little bit reassuring to head into the ninth inning knowing Trout was out of the game. He was not available. So you kind of thought like, okay, here are all the Dodgers bats that aren't available, but we don't need the bats right now. If you're Dave Roberts, we don't need the bats right now. You need the pitching and you need the defense. And the Angels are the ones that needed the bats, and they were all out of the game.
Yeah, that was the
So
best part too, is the fact that like literally, but for good reason, is that both teams pulled all their best players. So literally, it's going to be a comeback featuring like a bunch of just role players and
yeah,
whatnot. And one thing you texted me, I think it was like a week ago, and it's actually spot on, that I haven't really seen anyone like talk about, at least on Twitter, where like you said, in years past, especially last year, it seemed like if the Dodgers were down a run, or if they were in a close game, like in the eighth or ninth inning, you just knew that they were somehow going to pull it out. They were going to win, regardless of how it's going to happen. This year, it just seems completely switched, where regardless of, the situation, even if they're up by a run, if they're up by 2 runs, again, in extra innings, it just seems like every time it's a close game, you feel differently. You feel like they're going to find a way to lose. So again, this kind of transitions into the next thing I wanted to bring up. It is only a month into the season. We have like 125 games, I think, left that we have to play. So it's not like last year where we'd be in full panic mode because we'd have like literally 20 games left in the season. We have 125. The Dodgers have been playing like actual buns over the last 3 weeks, but yet they're still, I think, 2.5 games out of first place. So I know a lot of people have different kind of opinions on this. So I'm interested to hear yours. It's currently May 10th, and like I said, 125 games left to go. What level would you put your concern at, like on a scale of 1 to 10, with this team? From what you've seen through the first, I guess, 5 weeks in the season, are you like super concerned, or are you kind of having the mindset of, again, this 125 games to go, this team on paper is the best. I'm not going to have one worry in the world at this moment.
Um, I think I'm leaning a little bit closer to 10 than I am to 1. I'd say that I'm maybe around a 6 or a 7. I am concerned for the Dodgers right now, and it does not help that you start feeling concerned, but at least there's the starting pitching, and then Dustin May goes down, and they're going to be without him for the rest of the season. And it's part of me thinks, oh, well, you're going to have guys like Kershaw and Bauer and Bueller and whoever that are going to keep you in these games. And that thought is true. Like that's accurate. These guys are going to keep you in games. But is that enough? On Sunday, Trevor Bauer has yet another fantastic outing and loses. And that's kind of been the trend so far is you've got these pitchers that are having great games, and the offense hasn't been able to pick them up. And obviously Kershaw gets the win on Saturday. Barely got the win.
Yeah, talk about the most
Not his fault.
stressful, the most stressful win to ever pick up in his career.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, off topic real quick. Like, if I'm Kershaw sitting in the dugout, are you thinking like, am I gonna get this win? Or have you forgot with how long the game has been and how many runs have been scored? Do you even forget if you're still in line for the win? Like,
Right.
should you be concerned if I think I texted you in like the
Yeah.
ninth inning or something and said, is he still in line for the win? I don't even remember. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I don't know. I am concerned. Part of me is very excited for the injured players to come back because McKinstry was so good. And when he comes back, that's another bat. I was excited for Keibert Ruiz to come up and he homered on the first pitch he saw or whatever it was. Bellinger's going to come back eventually. You're going to get guys like David Price and Tony Gonsolin back. But it is concerning right now because we've said we've been a little bit concerned over the last 3 weeks, even though it's probably not serious and nothing has gotten better. And all of these games are the reverse, like they are predictable in the reverse way, like you just said, that I alluded to recently. In the past, it was doesn't matter who, doesn't matter when, doesn't matter what day of the week, what time it is, who they're playing, where the game's at, like they're going to win this game. And you would have that
Yeah.
feeling and it would happen. This year, it's the opposite. Like somehow they're going to blow it. And they have. So I am concerned moving forward. It is less concerning to see the Padres not necessarily having similar struggles, but are not winning as many games as I think they would like.
Yeah.
And it's actually been like that across all of baseball this year. There are a lot of teams that a lot of people expected to be really, really good that are not there right now. I don't think anybody expected the Red Sox to be where they're at or the Giants to be where they're at. So I think it's something that goes across baseball, but it is even tough to pinpoint what exactly the Dodgers' number one problem is. Is it injuries? Is it offense? Is it bullpen? Is it a lot of people think coaching?
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Right.
So, and it's not like one thing is going to change and the Dodgers are going to be great.
Yeah, one thing, it was interesting because I was thinking about this more in depth the other day. And well, first off, right now, I mean, the fact that they signed Bauer is looking like a blessing in disguise with Dustin May going down. So that was
Mhm.
huge. But the Bauer signing, and the Corey Knebel one was good, but with him out for the next 3 to 4 months or maybe even the season, obviously that's a huge blow to the bullpen, but he was a solid addition. But I was really like kind of thinking about it. And obviously, we're not going to give like the front office any crap for, putting together the team they did, literally having the balls to go out and sign Trevor Bauer. But I think like the Bauer signing kind of blinded everyone that the front office really did not improve this team at all, with the exception of Trevor Bauer again getting added to the starting rotation. The Dodgers lost Kike, they lost Jock. I get McKinstry was off to a hot start, but he's the guy that you're relying on to be a bench piece. So the Dodgers bench got, in my opinion, significantly worse this offseason. And their bullpen, granted, guys like Alex Wood, Dylan Floro, Pedro Baez, Jake McGee, they're not like sexy names that you're thinking like, oh man, yeah, I'm in pain that we lost them. But Again, the bullpen I think did get a little weaker. Again, the Corey Knebel was a great signing, but him being out really kind of screws things. But like I think we didn't really kind of just stop and think like in reality, is this team actually an improvement or did they get kind of worse? Because like I said, we were coming off the high of winning the World Series. They just added Trevor Bauer. So that was something I was kind of like thinking about too. I was like, we really didn't address a lot of things. Like we didn't need a starting pitcher. Again, granted, with Justin May out, that it's great to have, but the bullpen, the depth piece, and it's showing now. And granted, there's a lot of injuries. Where no offense to DJ Peters, no offense to some of these other guys like Luke Rayleigh, they should not be seeing consistent at bats in the big leagues. And it shows they should be minor league guys. Where if for whatever reason you need a pinch hit or two, they come up. But these guys are getting consistent work. Again, like Sheldon Noisy, he's a guy you want to have in the minors. So like you said, with all the guys they've had hurt, once they all come back, I'm sure it'll kind of fix the storm just a bit. But moving on to the next thing that I wanted to bring up is essentially, for the most part, unless your name is Justin Turner in the starting lineup, or if you're any of the Dodgers starting pitchers, those have been like the only six guys that have been consistently good this year. It seems like everyone else is struggling in their own right, whereas everyone kind of has like a different version of struggling. Whereas Corey Seager has like an OPS of like 790, but by his standards, that's struggling. Mookie's hitting like 240, 250, but by his standards, that's struggling. What player, again, this could be a hitter, a pitcher, it could be one hitter and one pitcher. Are you guess, I guess, surprised the most by, I guess, kind of most frustrated by that, how they've been through the first, 5 weeks of the season? Now, like I said, this can be struggling by their standards or just overall who's kind of like let you down the most. Oh no, we seem to have lost your audio. You are now mute.
Oh, we're good.
And there we go. You're back.
The one that jumps out right away is Edwin Rios. The dude's just not hitting. He's the only player on the team batting below 100, and at the time of recording, he's batting 078.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, 51 ABs and 18 strikeouts, one home run. That's not very good. But if we're looking more at starters, I think before this weekend, I would have said Mookie Betts, or before this past weekend. At the time of recording, Mookie is now hitting 261, and Seager is hitting 273 at the time of recording. And I think a lot of that is because of the last few games. Mookie has started to turn things around. In the Angel series, he turned things around a little bit. So Mookie's swinging the bat a little bit better. Corey Seager, yeah, he's swinging the bat a little bit better. He had a 2 or 3 hit day in the last game against the Angels, I want to say. So some of these guys have turned things around where they'll have one game, but it is also so early that if you have one really good game, suddenly your average has jumped up a little bit. So Seager's hitting 273, and I'm not going to do the quick math, but before Saturday, so Saturday and Sunday when the Dodgers, Sunday against the Angels, they lost, they scored 1 run, but he had a couple hits. Saturday when they scored 14 runs. Before that, he could have been hitting 220, 230. Right. And it can change that quickly because of how few ABs everyone has for the most part. I think if
he was hitting 244 entering the Angel series.
Yeah, so not great. Was that Seager or
Seager's hitting 244. Okay. Now he's hitting 273. So, like you said, just since it's so early, literally you have 3 good games. And your average goes up, where 3 games from now he can be hitting 300. So like you said, just it takes a few games and all of a sudden your numbers are going in the right direction.
Yeah. So I guess if I could pinpoint one person, I think I would say Seager, even though he is hitting 273 now with 4 home runs. I just think that kind of offensively and defensively, he just wasn't where I expected him to be this year after an MVP or World Series MVP campaign last year, having the regular season that he did. And yeah, I mean, you can say that it was it's a 60 game sprint, whatever. But like that was a dominant 60 game stretch for not just Seager, but for Mookie and for pretty much everybody else on that team last year. That's how good they were, and everybody was clicking at once. So I think it'll come around. I hope it'll come around. It's starting to right now, but on both sides of the ball, there are a lot of things. I mean, that's not really a baseball term, I guess, but defensively for Seager at short, even though the errors aren't necessarily showing up, there are plays that he should make that he's not making that are still being ruled hits or infield singles or something, but balls are still getting past him. So I think that's not great for Seager. And obviously it's not great for the team. I do think it'll come around because he is that type of player. But yeah, I think if I could pinpoint one player that I think has been ultimately the most disappointing for me in the starting lineup, I'd say Seager, especially with
Yeah,
guys like Pollock and Taylor having pretty good ABs for the most part, or stringing
right.
things together, or going on stretches. Pollock being one RBI away from breaking the Dodgers single game record.
Yeah, I
I,
was gonna say the fact that like literally their three best hitters through the first month have been Turner, and then Chris Taylor and AJ Pollock both have been fairly good. So definitely not encouraging. Yeah, I mean for the most part, like all those guys, not ideal. I guess one that just stands out, where I guess I want to use the word disappointed, is just Gavin Lux. Or even though the last few days he's been like turning it around, or I know his numbers have been a little better, but this is a guy who just what 2 3 years ago was like the number one overall prospect in baseball, or I guess number two overall prospect, and he just has not looked good like at all. Like he just has not shown any flat. I mean, like defensively, he's definitely better than when he came up because he like could legit not play second base, and now he's making amazing plays there. But with the bat, I just looked at I'd be sitting only 2-1 right now, and that's after I think like 4 or 5 games where he's had like multi hit games. So he was sitting like 130 or 140, and for some odd reason, like his power is just non-existent. Like when he was in AAA, I think he was hitting like 30 home runs a year. Now, if he gets like a double, that's considered a walk-off hit. So, especially with how good he looked in spring training. So again, I hopefully he can turn it around, but I've just been fairly let down because it's a pretty big sample size right now. I think Gavin Lux. Let me just check this really quick. He has 100. So he officially has 162 games under his belt, and for his career, he's sitting 210, 601 OPS with 12 home runs and 60 RBIs. So for a guy that was a top overall prospect in baseball, uh, not good. So hopefully he can turn it around. Hopefully everyone can turn it around. But two topics to get to before we just quickly preview the Mariners series and then turn to a Q&A. Again, this is one I'd be interested to hear your opinion on. Uh, Pretty much during this entire losing streak, I know like Dave Roberts, he's kind of been downplaying it, saying, "Oh yeah, guys in the clubhouse, they're frustrated. We don't like losing." But for the most part, he hasn't come out and kind of just said like, "I hate this. Like I'm pissed. This should not be happening." Again, Kershaw, Muncy, again, they talked the other day and they were kind of just like, "Yeah, we don't want to be losing. This is obviously not ideal." But there hasn't been a player that has pretty much like put their foot down and said like, "This is unacceptable. I hate this." And then, of course, to no surprise, yesterday, Trevor Bauer was the player that came out and he pretty much said, like, I'm pissed. I came here to win. I'm mad. Like, I am not okay with what's happening. And of course, he's the first Dodger to speak out on this. And pretty much it's just everyone on Mets Twitter and everyone on Twitter that just hates the guy. But pretty much everyone now is just calling him a baby, saying, you shouldn't be saying that you're upset. You shouldn't be voicing your opinion like that. You sound like a crybaby. I personally thought it was fantastic that, again, someone finally said, like, I'm pissed. This is unacceptable. Do you like that Bauer vocally said that he's really frustrated, or do you think he should have kept in line with all the other Dodgers players saying, "Oh, yeah, we're mad, but we're gonna figure this out. There are no problems in the clubhouse."
um, yeah, I mean, I'll start off by saying it doesn't matter, what Bauer said. There are people that are going to find a problem with it.
He could have said, "I love
Um,
dogs," and then people would say, "Well, what's your
what
deal
about
with
cats?
cats?"
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, yeah, that's going to happen, and it's either going to be the people that don't really like him or don't like the content that he produces, or it's going to be people who are fans of teams that he didn't sign with. So that's the way I feel about that. But ultimately, I think that it's good that he said it because if there was one player that was going to say anything, I would have expected it to be Trevor Bauer. He's obviously an outspoken player. A lot of people love it. A lot of people don't love it. I like it. And I'm glad that he said something because he's right. I mean, he tried to say that in his introductory press conference. I'm a winner. I came here to win. And they won for the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks of the season. And now it's not coming together. And it's not like he's sitting there saying, I'm doing my part. Where's everybody else? He could say that because it'd be true.
right.
He is worth so far. Trevor Bauer has been worth every penny they paid for him. And he's holding up his end of the bargain. Right now, the offense isn't doing that. I mean, the Dodgers posted. I love when they do this, when they post like the final line graphic for their pitcher,
Yeah.
and it's like all cool and like great stats or whatever, and then they lose. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he came out of the game. He's getting a loss for this line.
Yeah, I,
So
I just
yeah,
want to say this. I tweeted this yesterday. Over his last three starts, Would you like to take a guess as to how many runs of support he's gotten in his last three starts
He's getting the
when he's
Kershaw
exited the
treatment.
game?
Yeah,
When
he's
he's
getting the
exited the
Kershaw
game.
treatment.
Take a guess though. His last three starts.
How many runs?
When he's left the game, how many runs have been on the board?
So when were his last 3 games? It would have been
It was yesterday at Milwaukee and then
and then
Chicago.
Chicago. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay. So Chicago, he went the complete game.
Milwaukee was the complete game. Chicago, he went four and a third.
Milwaukee was the complete game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Okay, so Milwaukee was the complete game. Chicago went 4 1/3. I'm gonna say he got 7 runs across 3 games.
Three.
That's it.
He's gotten three. So in the Milwaukee game, when he left in the eighth, or I guess when he was done in the eighth, they had no runs, but then they tacked one on in the ninth, but he was already done.
Yeah.
Chicago, that one, where did it just go? That was zero. When he left the game, they had 0 runs. And then I believe that was the one where Muncy hit the homer in the seventh. Then they lost in extras. But when he lost, they had no runs on the board. And then yesterday, they had one run on the board. But yeah, just going back over his last, 7 starts, however many it's been. When he left the game, the Dodgers have had 3 runs, 7 runs, so a very rare one, 2 runs, 2 runs, 0 runs, 0 runs, 1 run. So, yeah, like you said, he easily could be like, listen, I'm doing my part. The offense just kind of shafted me. But, he didn't single anyone out. He just said he's pissed. And like I said, you liked it. I liked it. Hopefully, if you're with some of these players in the dugout, you're just thinking, crap, this guy then, came here, signed this huge contract. He came here to win. He's pissed. We need to figure something out. So I wish more players would, because if I was in this situation, I was going through this and I was doing a post game, I'd be like, the hell, man. I took the over on our 103 wins and we're barely over 500. I'm pissed. I'm upset. Again, I guess a lot of players, they kind of keep their cool and whatnot, but I'm not shocked Bauer did. So hopefully it fires him up. Hopefully it does something, but I'm just glad. But I'm not shocked that, again, people are treating him like he's a baby for being upset.
Well,
but
and him and for the most part, like all the starting pitchers have really held up.
They've
Well
all been like
season.
I think
like Kershaw's been great, Bueller's
Yeah.
been good, Bauer's been good. I mean, Kershaw's second in the league in wins right now, surprisingly, because the last couple of years his starts to the season have been slow because the offense has been slow before it gets going. But I mean, like Bauer's like top 5 in strikeouts per 9 innings, and then in fewest walks and hits per 9 innings. I mean,
going across the board, I mean, because you have, again, Bauer, he's doing what he did last year. Kershaw looks like, still vintage Kershaw. Bueller literally has like an ERA just barely above 3, but he has like the lowest walk rate in all of baseball. Julio, he has like an ERA of 3.4, and that's like the worst in the Dodgers starting rotation, where it's only that high because he had a pretty bad start his last out, and it was like a 1.8 ERA before that. So literally every starter has been, Dustin May before he went down, every starter's been fine. It's just, even with how bad the bullpen's been, if the offense was averaging, again, I think pitcher wins is like the most overrated stat in all of baseball.
Agreed.
Because what was like Rick Porcello years ago had like an ERA of 4.8 and won like 20 games. But like if Bauer literally would get like 5 runs per outing, he'd be like 8-0. So it's, and I feel like he's the kind of guy where he actually does care about pitcher wins. I just get those vibes that he wants as many wins as possible. So yeah, definitely not.
Does he have 3?
Yeah, I think he has 3, but
he got 3 wins.
He can, like I said, he can have 7 or 8. But again, this is kind of a good transition into our final topic before moving on to the final segment, and that's in this past 20 game stretch when they've lost 15 to 20. 9 of these games they've lost by 1 run. So if you just take half those and flip them, the Dodgers are in first place. It's no problem. Everything's fine. Do you think by them losing 9 games by 1 run is encouraging, as in all these losses, they were right in it till the end, they could have won? Or do you view it more as discouraging, as in they should have won these games, they could have won these games, but they found ways to lose? Because like I said, you can make a case for either, but I'm interested to see which direction you fall more in line with.
In a lot of cases, I feel like I would lean toward it's encouraging, but given what we said earlier about how it didn't matter what inning it was, what the score was, who was playing, where the game was. A few years ago, you had that belief like, oh, the Dodgers are going to win this game. And now it's the other way around, where if they're winning late, you have a feeling like they're probably going to blow it. I think it's discouraging because the sign of those good teams are the ones who can come back at the end and the ones who are going to pull out those narrow wins. And right now, the Dodgers are not one of those teams. Um, think about how many wins they've had in the last couple of weeks where the win, even when the offense is not going and then like picks it up for an inning or two, think about how many wins they've had in the last couple of weeks that have, in the grand scheme of things, looked like blowouts. So the Angels won where the Angels came back on Saturday and it was 14-11. But then there's the Brewers game. There's the Reds win. Like all of these games for the most part look like they're blowouts on paper. All of the one run games are losses. And some of it comes down to extra innings where the two teams kind of go back and forth and the Dodgers can't get it done, which is its own issue, which we can have a whole show dedicated to why the Dodgers don't play fundamental baseball ever. And
Right.
other teams do, which is why the Dodgers lose in extra innings every time they go to extras because everybody else plays fundamental baseball. The Dodgers don't. Um, but yeah, I think it is discouraging. If you want to spin it a different way, sure, the Dodgers are a hit away from winning in 9 of those games. So
I
you
think there
know,
were I think there were three that were in extra innings, and they were legit one out
one
away
out.
from
Yep.
winning,
Yeah.
and you couldn't get it.
So yeah, so it depends. Are you like the glass half full or the glass half empty kind of
Oh
guy?
man, I'm
Typically,
glass is completely empty, man. The glass is completely empty the way this team's been playing. But I hear you.
yeah. So the way that I look at it right now is that it's discouraging. There are ways to spin this as encouraging though. With
Yeah.
the as quiet as the bats have been for the most part this season, again, some of the averages look better because of some of the wins and because of how early it still is. So a player goes on a streak and suddenly their average is pretty good. But yeah, so given the bats that are in the lineup, regardless of whether they're hitting well or they're struggling, yeah, the encouraging thing is all it takes is one pitch to change a game at this point.
Yeah. I'm kind of like 50-50 on both, where it is encouraging that they're like literally borderline. Hell, even those three games they're one out away, they win all those three, they're in first place. So encouraging in that aspect, but also discouraging is in there's so many games that they should have won or should have at least made a better effort, and they just didn't. Now, granted, injuries, but you can only take injuries so far because again, it's still the offense not showing up, the bullpen not showing up, but still something to look at. Like I said, the fact they're only 2.5 games out of first is definitely an encouraging sign. All right, so we got a quick series preview, and then we'll get to the Q&A. The Dodgers return home after like 2 weeks on the road, something like that. They get to welcome the Seattle Mariners back into town. It's funny, both these teams have the same record. They're both one game over 500, but with one team, it's like, wow, we're one game over 500. We're succeeding. We are, exceeding expectations. This is fantastic. You have another team with the same record, and everything just seems like it's a dumpster fire. A 2-game series, so it's going to be fairly quickly. What's your prediction on how many games the Dodgers win this series? Are they getting the 2-game sweep? Are they split and going 1-1? Or does this streak continue and they drop both games to the Seattle Mariners of all teams?
No, I like the Dodgers to win tomorrow on Tuesday. I like the matchup with Bueller and Yusei Kikuchi.
Kikuchi.
Kikuchi. I actually like kind of what Justin Dunn has done
Done.
this year for the Mariners, and I don't know. I think the Mariners are actually a sneaky good team. Again, for a little while they were in first place in that division, but that division, like so many other divisions in baseball, is just kind of whack. So there's a lot going on. Um, I think the Mariners have a decent lineup. I like Dunn on Wednesday. He and Urias should be a pretty good. I think that's a good matchup. I think, and again, like their numbers this season are fairly similar anyway. But yeah, it's just really tough to bet against Bueller at this point. It is like when you look at simply just the pitching matchups, it's honestly hard to bet against the Dodgers. But I don't know. I think maybe Bueller's comments might have woke him up a little bit. I think that this was definitely a wake up call to go in and play the Angels, a team that has very little pitching, and then get embarrassed in games 1 and 3 of the series. So hopefully it's a wake up call. Hopefully the bats come alive. And I like the Dodgers to split. I think that's a safe bet is to split this two game series.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if they lose both games to the Mariners, then I don't, hope is lost. I am not going to be Mr. Optimist anymore, but I'm just going to be, you know what? I'll say they'll go. I'll say they get the sweep. Why not? Right? Let's have them get the sweep. A lot of these losing games have been on the road. So there was the 4-game Padres series. There's the 3-game Red series. So granted, that's a 7-game sample size, but three-fourths of this entire like losing stretch has come on the road. So let's see what they can do at home. Again, hopefully they can get back in the winning ways. But all right, let's go now to Twitter. We have about 10 questions. Now, will we get to all of them? We'll have to wait and see because maybe we talked about what some of these questions were. Elizabeth Garcia, what do you think is the missing piece that has thrown the Dodgers game off? Or is it just the cost we're paying to winning the 2020 World Series? I think I tweeted that the other day. I said, when I literally said I will do anything for the Dodgers to win the World Series, I think this is the anything. So, do you think there is a missing piece, or again, do you just think this is payback for what happened last year?
No, I'm gonna say that right now. We'll forget about some of the decisions that the in-game decisions that fans might not like. Let's forget about the struggling bats. I really think that the missing piece right now is some of the big dudes who are injured. And again, like it's I don't think I can pinpoint like, oh, the injuries are the reason why the Dodgers have been horrible over the last 3 weeks, because it's hard to pinpoint one thing. But I'll say that if you were to switch the injuries, I think that's one big missing piece for the Dodgers. If you change some of those injuries, get McKinstry back because he was hot. And again, like you said, he wasn't supposed to be a big time guy for the Dodgers, but obviously he's kind of turned out to be one through the first couple games before he got hurt. So you get McKinstry back, you get Bellinger back. There's still some pitchers out with Gonsolin and Price who at this point could even head into the bullpen and make things better. Knable being out is a big time problem. I mean, I think you could even exclude Dustin May from this. Like that sucks. If you
Yeah.
exclude Dustin May from this, I think the Dodgers are in a better chance. Are already looking better, even if Dustin May's out. So get some guys back healthy, and hopefully things will start to turn around for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the missing piece is kind of just Cody, where I think we'll see when he's back, but he's an everyday guy in center field, a constant bat in the lineup. Which again, it takes a guy that shouldn't be there, then he puts him on the bench, and he plays amazing defense, great speed, and just overall, it's just I don't. Not that Cody's like a guy like Kike where they're just so energetic and their personality's so great, but Cody, maybe because he's just high all the time, but I just think his presence is probably just a lot better for the guys in the clubhouse. Just because again, he's definitely the kind of guy that you want to hang and chill with and be buds with. So I'm going with Cody. I think once Cody's back, hopefully, like I said, the tide will turn. Ray Dat says the Panic Brothers aren't there yet, but they are certainly warming up. Dodgers got to get it together soon. My question is, will actual sustained offense help calm the bullpen down, or does the pitching have to take care of itself? So I guess once the offense gets going, is that going to take some pressure off the bullpen, or is this a major concern that you think they're going to struggle with the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good question. There are a couple ways to go with it. I think a lot of baseball is mental, but then a lot of it is like actually physically hitting the baseball, throwing strikes, things like that. So yeah, I think you can get in your head quite a bit. And obviously having a lead first of all, and some insurance runs to work with is definitely beneficial for the bullpen. And I think once the bats start coming around, I think the bullpen, by just sheer comparison to what they are now, is going to start looking a lot better.
as long as as long as Dennis effing Santana is what I call him every time he enters the game, and Mitch White and some of these other guys. Again, they shouldn't be regular pieces in the bullpen. So again, once everyone gets healthy, Gonsolin's back, Price is back, Gratterall's on the injured list now. Once he's back, I think things will calm down quite a bit. This is an interesting one. This one comes from Rhino, but it's spelled Rhyno. And I know there's some conspiracy theorists out there that have been throwing this one together. Is Scott Boras telling Corey Seager not to dive or slide on the baseball field? This was a discussion I actually had with MJ the other day. And I mean, a lot of people, you can make a compelling case where with him, he's going to be making a $250 million plus contract this off season, and it's a lot of people are saying, are you going to miss out on more money if you straight up just suck on defense? Where if you're an American League team, either you can move him to first base or have him DH, and you probably don't care, or are you going to lose more money if you get injured? And I know Jerry Hairston, which by the way, like I know we give Jerry Hairston a lot of grief. The dude seems more fired up than most of the players on the Dodgers and coaches in the post games on Sportsnet LA. So he's always pumped. But he was saying like Corey Seager, he like just has not been, like you said, even if players aren't ruled errors, he is not getting the balls. He's not diving. He's not sliding. do you think potentially in the back of his mind, Scott Boras said like, "Hey, dude, like you better not get hurt out there because if you get hurt, have another massive injury. You already had Tommy John that can give you a bad payday, or is Corey Seager just his body's just getting up there? He isn't able to dive and slide because I don't think I've seen him slide like into the dirt to stop a ball once this year. Maybe he has. I haven't seen every inning, but what are your thoughts on that conspiracy theory that Mr. Boris is in his client's ear saying defense won't cost us as much money as an injury?
I mean, that's crazy, right? Like
Is it?
that's crazy, right? I hadn't even thought about that until just now. But that's gotta be crazy. I don't know. I don't think that's
Deep in the back of your mind, knowing that it's Scott Boras, there is a slight part of you that thinks it might be true.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's really interesting. I just don't think he's had it this year. Honestly, I just think that something's off because something's been off at the plate, something's been off defensively. I think maybe just it is not a good start to the season for Corey Seager. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it.
I mean, again, it's maybe Boras didn't tell him that, but again, if you're Seager and you're thinking this is my big contract year, do I want to risk an injury? Again, maybe he's unable to. I mean, the thing about Seager is he's never been great at shortstop anyway. Like he's always been kind of right around middle of the pack. But this year he's definitely been a lot worse. And again, he's not really diving for balls, not really making extensions to make plays. So all you conspiracy theorists out there, it's not an awful one. David, should the Dodgers sign Todd Frazier? I think this is how the Dodgers have reached the breaking point and the low point of their season. Where I had to look up Todd Frazier's stats just to double check because he was DFA'd by the Pirates. Where if you're DFA'd by the Pirates, one, that has to be a problem. Two, granted, he is doing a little better than Edward Rios. I believe he's hitting like 086. So, Josh, I will save both of our answers on this and just go with a resounding no.
Oh,
He
see, I disagree because
what?
that would add a fifth former
Oh
Chatham
no.
A into the
All right. So for that aspect, more Chatham A's, but from the will the team get better aspect, no. But you
Yeah,
as if Josh can get if the entire Dodger 40-man roster can consist of Chatham A's, if that means the Dodgers are going to be the worst team in baseball by far, I think Josh will trade that to
hey,
have
that
only
brings in
A's.
Chris Bryant and Evan Longoria. So
Well, hey, this is actually a great way to go to our next and final question, and this says, "What would an ideal package be for Chris Bryant?" Because the Dodgers were attached to him all offseason. They didn't pull the trigger because they ended up signing Justin Turner. He's a free agent this offseason, so it would have been like a 1-year rental most likely. Now Chris Bryant has found the fountain of youth and he's playing like an MVP candidate again. But I have been saying for months I would love Chris Bryant because he plays third, he plays first, he plays left field, he plays outfield, which if Andrew Friedman's sitting there, he's probably just,
watering at the
just
mouth. What
just
was
what
that?
yeah
What's he doing?
yeah, or as you said, watering at the mouth,
Yeah,
seeing all
mine
those
was
different
way better.
yeah, yours is way better, yours is more mature. I think he'd be an ideal fit for the Dodgers. So if you're the Dodgers and the Cubs, uh they're not competing for a playoff spot, they're not going to re-sign Bryant, they call Freeman and say, listen, Chris Bryant's on the table, what would you offer, what would you be willing to part with in order to get Chris Bryant? Again, which would probably only be, like I said, a season, half a season rental. So it's kind of like a Manny Machado thing where they parted with a good amount of prospects, but not necessarily top prospects in order to get a guy for a couple months.
Yeah, so we're talking this season. If they
We're
were to make a
talking
deal for
July 31st. Freed God is on the phone trying to get Chris Bryant.
I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Obviously, at the end of the year, I mean, so Turner's got the 1 year. It depends if they would want to try to re-sign him, I think. And if they actually thought about re-signing him and were committed to re-signing him, I think you could offer more. I just don't know what. It's tough. If this were last year, I mean, there were a lot of people saying like, just let Turner go and sign Rios. I don't know what Rios's value is right now. It's tough
Thank God
because I
they
don't want
didn't.
to. So here's another thing, and this is something that you brought up too. You said that the Dodgers bench, specifically the bench, probably is a downgrade from last season's, and it is because last year on the bench, I mean, there almost was no bench
Yeah.
because you had Taylor and and Kike, who were all over the place last year. You had Rios, who was obviously coming off the bench. You had Jock, who was all over the place. Like, you had so many guys that were just rotating every day. It's almost like you didn't have a 1 through 8, I guess, in the starting lineup.
Yeah.
I just don't really know if that's a move that the Dodgers would make this year, even if it's smart, because I don't think you really you don't have that much depth on your bench compared to last year. And I don't think you want to ship off some of your top prospects at this point. Like, I just don't know if that's something you would want to do. Again, like, I'm sure, as you said, Freed God could spin this in a positive light and could pull something off that fans would be happy with. But again, like, look at who your top prospects are right now. I don't think you want Ruiz gone. I don't think you want Hosey and Bush gone. Like, I think these are guys that you want to hang on to.
Right.
I think McKinstry's a guy you might want to hang on to. So I don't know. I don't see the Dodgers dealing anybody in the starting lineup, to be totally honest with you. It seems to be a trend, especially for some of these big guys in baseball, to go out and do things like this and trade a prospect. I don't see the Dodgers trading any prospects with where they're at right now, given that this would be likely a 1-year rental.
Yeah, I mean,
But
obviously,
I'm intrigued to hear what your offer would be.
yeah. So I mean, also depends on like a player's injured, how are they looking? Is Chris Bryant still raking? Because obviously, the fact that again he could play third, first, left field, center field, where again Freeman, like you said, is watering at the mouth, knowing that all the different opportunities he can move around the lineup. Now, for the most part, like I don't think it would be like two. I think maybe Caber would be like the headliner, but I think
Yeah.
after that, I think maybe you can get away with like one or two prospects in like the 10 to 20 range. So it wouldn't be an absolute massive overpay. I think for when the Dodgers got Yu Darvish, I think Willie Calhoun was like their number 4, number 5 overall prospect, and then when the Dodgers did the Manny deal, I think Diaz was like number 5, 6. I can't remember, but again, it wasn't anything massive. So I don't think the Dodgers would have to worry about some top guys, but I think Ruiz is more expendable just because the Dodgers catching depth in the minors is massive.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I would like to see if Freed God is on the phone with the Cubs on July 31st, what if he can bring in Craig Kimbrell in the deal too, and it becomes Craig Kimbrell and Chris Bryant? Then would you be more willing to potentially part with another prospect or two? I think Kimbrell, I don't know off the top of my head, I'd have to look it up. Maybe has like a year, maybe 2 left on his deal, but he would definitely be a welcoming addition to the Dodgers bullpen, especially if Corey Knebel's out the rest of the year, and even if another piece like if something were to, I know people give Kenley a lot of crap, but if something were to happen to Kenley all of a sudden and he's out for an extended period of time, all of a sudden now your only high leverage guys are Blake Trinan, and obviously you can't roll him out there all the time. So if Freed God wants to pull together some trade for Chris Bryant and Craig Kimbrell, uh, as a wise man once said, let me get that.
Yeah, I think there's a higher chance of the Dodgers trying to do something like this if it includes more than just Chris Bryant, obviously. And I don't know. I actually like that. I think if I'm the Dodgers front office, there'd be more that I'd be willing to give up if you can get a return like that. The other day, MLB.com put out a story about Chris Bryant's 13 potential landing spots. The Dodgers were mentioned in there. They said unlikely, but the Dodgers have obviously a plethora of talent that they can dip into if they need to. So, yeah, I mean, if you can get a decent return too, especially with Bryant being a half season rental, if they don't see them trying to re-sign him in the future again, they've already blown through the luxury tax. So
Now, Doug, I am more surprised you weren't on board with the Chris Bryant hype train because in 2011 he did spend his summer in Chatham, Massachusetts,
yes, he
for the
did.
Anglers. So if we get Todd Frazier and trade for Chris Bryant, then now gives us 6 Chatham Anglers in the Dodgers organization.
Now I could be wrong, but I think 6 in the organization is up there for some of the most in baseball among all the other teams. So.
It very well might be. I was just looking to see if Craig Kimbrell by any chance, but it doesn't look like he was in the Cape Cod
He
League.
was not.
All right. So at this point, I think we just need to look up all the available players that at one point played for Chatham, and then just say those are all of our
Andrew
trade
Miller.
targets.
Stick Andrew Miller in the bullpen.
Yes, just every Chatham A. So that does wrap up this section of the Q&A. So thank you to everyone that reached out and had their questions. I asked people to submit their opinions on just the state of the team, and a lot of people were just saying, yeah, no, like fire sale, we burn everything down. So the good thing is there's baseball tomorrow, there's baseball the day after that, and there's baseball for the next 4 or 5 months. So Josh, before we head out for the day, any parting words you'd like to say about the Dodgers, or anything you'd like to say or like to see from the Dodgers, or anything like that?
I would like to see a little bit more fundamental baseball and extra innings.
Just bunt down the third base line.
And
That's all I
another
ask
thing, I
for.
just want to rant for a second. Why are they shifting on teams with a runner in scoring position in extra innings when they're on the road? Like that run wins the game, and they're
Yeah.
shifting on people. Like I don't combine analytics and fundamentals.
No, like
Baseball.
ban the shift, learn how to bunt, and all that kind of stuff. So again, thanks to Josh for joining the show. You can find him on Twitter at Josh Schaefer 25. I believe I got that right. If you like baseball, also if you like the LA Kings, then that's an extra bonus for you. I'm gonna hint it at that. So I'm gonna let you guys go find Josh's Twitter and find out why, if you like the Kings, why you should potentially follow him. So Josh, I see you're wearing your Chatham Anglers baseball shirt. You put it on to show for the fans just how much you love the Chatham Anglers.
Man, I've been exposed today.
So thank you for joining. I'll see you tomorrow when we talk college football, as we do on a week-to-week basis. So if you like college football content, then go find us over there. If you're listening to the show, you guys can find the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on YouTube. Just type in Thinkin' Blue with Blake Harris. Type in Blake Harris. Find me on Twitter at Blake Harris TBLA. Slide into my DMs. Go find Josh on Twitter. Slide into his DMs and talk Dodgers with him or Kings. You can do Dodgers and Kings with him. You can't do that with me because I'll just say Kopitar, Jonathan Quick, and that's my Kings knowledge right there. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. Stay tuned for more future episodes, and we will see you very soon.